Okay, so now we're going to move on to tier 2 problems. So on our tier 2 problems, tier 1 problems were the abstract ones. Okay, so they're abstract, just kind of getting you into the hang of how to do this. So this was just made up to try to help you out with figuring out how to do this. Now that we know the process, now we're going to be doing true conversions. So actual conversions. That's what we're going to be doing with now. So now we are actually dealing with stuff that you know. How many minutes are in 16 hours? We're being able to convert pressures. How many grams and how many pounds, particles and moles. This is stuff that's actual concrete. Okay. So on tier 2, there's a total of 10 of them. You are going to have to choose 5 of them. So you choose any, or not 5, you're going to have to choose 7. So you choose any 7. Now here's the thing. I am working 2 of them. So you just choose 5 more. Okay. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do problem number 1. So this one I'm doing for you as a class. So same steps as before. You start by writing down what you're given in the problem. So this one is 3.5 atmospheres. That's what ATM is. You start with one train track. There's one train track. We want to go from atmospheres to millimeter mercury. So this is tier 2. So we're going to check out our conversion factors in tier 2. So we want atmospheres and millimeter mercury. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go through and look and see if any of these have atmospheres and millimeter mercury. And what do you know? It does right here. This atmospheres and millimeter mercury are together. So that means that they're equal to one another in some way. So it's just a one-step conversion factor. So we can go from atmospheres to millimeter mercury. Okay, this is the path we're taking. So it's only one train track. I have ATM. So what I have goes on the bottom. I want millimeter mercury. So what I want goes on top. Okay. So unit on top, unit on bottom cancels. This is what I'm left with. That's what I was asked for. So I'm good to go. Now I just have to fill in my conversion factor. So I go back to my conversion factors. The one that has ATM and millimeters mercury is right here. So it's 1 ATM equals 760. So 1 ATM is 760 millimeters of mercury. So my millimeters of mercury is up top, so that's 760. My 1 ATM is on the bottom. So now I can do the math. So remember, numbers on top, you multiply each number on top, you divide by each number on bottom. So when we put this in our calculator, we're going to do 3.5 times 760, divide by 1, because that's what's on the bottom, and this is the answer we get. Now, if we take a look at our answer choices, we can, or not answer, we take a look at our, for sig figs, so remember we are multiplying and dividing, so the number we have 2 sig figs in our original problem. So I can only have 2 sig figs in my my answer. So I can only have 2 sig figs in my answer. So therefore, first sig fig, second sig fig. Okay, the second sig fig here is a 6. The number after is a 6. It rounds it up. So instead of 2,600, it's going to be 2,700. Because remember, we can only have the 2 sig figs, so we replace everything else with a 0. So this is going to be 2,700 millimeters of mercury. Okay, so this one's a one-step problem. The next one I'm going to work is I'm going to work problem number 7. Okay. So problem number 7 is right here. So a class period is about 52 minutes. What is this in years? So we always put what we start with, so 52 minutes, and I'm going to use the abbreviation because I don't want to write a lot if I don't have to. Remember, we will always start with at least one train track. So now we go to our conversion factors and see if we have anything that contains minutes and years. Sorry. So when I go back to my conversion factors, I want minutes and years together. Okay, none of those have minutes and years together. So now what I figured out is, okay, is there a way for me to go from minutes to years? And what do you know? There is. I can go from minutes to hours, from hours to days, days to years. So we're not just doing one step, we're going to have to do 3 steps. So we're going to go from minute to hours first. So once again, we are going to go ahead and write our process to keep you straight. So we're going to go from minutes to hours, which is still not years. So after we go from minutes to hours, now we can go from hours to days. So hours to days, still not at a year. So once we go from hours to day, then we have to go from day to year. Okay, so now we can go from day to year. So this is going to be a 3 train tracks. So we need 3 train tracks. So there's 1, 2, 3 train tracks. Okay, so what I have goes on bottom. So I have minute. We're going to do this like before. I have minute. I want hours. So hours are going to go on top. I have hours. So hours goes on bottom. I want days. So days are going to go on top. I have days. I want years. So year is going to go on top. Top, bottom, cancels. Top, bottom, cancels. Top, bottom, cancels. I'm left with this unit, which is what I wanted. So therefore, I know that I am I'm doing this correctly. All right, sorry about that. I had a phone call. So back to what we were doing here. All right, so now that we have this, so now we're going to go put in our numbers. So the first one I need is hours and minutes. If I forget, it's on the first page. So hours and minutes. So we're going to look for hours and minutes. So here's our hours and minutes. So 1 hour is 60 minutes. Probably already knew that. So 1 hour is 60 minutes. Then we're going to go from days and hours. So let's find days and hours. We should already know this one too. There's 24 hours in a day. So we got 1 day is 24 hours. And then we're going to go from days to years. Now, this one has the exact count. We usually just round to 365, but we're going to go ahead and put what we have here. So 1 year is 365.25 days. So 1 year is 365.25 days. Now that we have this set up, now we go through. Remember, everything on top gets multiplied by each, each number on top is multiplied and each number on bottom is divided. So multiply your numbers on top, divide by numbers on bottom, divide by each on bottom. So when we have our calculator, we have 52 times 1 times 1 times 1, divide by 60, divide by 24, divide by 365.25, and we get our answer as 0.000099. So now we have to say, okay, well, I need to look at how many sig figs I'm supposed to answer to. So our original number has 2 sig figs. So I'm supposed to use 2 sig figs. Well, guess what? The way the calculator has it out gets you 2 sig figs. So you can write this as a decimal. So equals 0.1234499 years. Because remember, you have to keep the unit. So this is an acceptable answer. You could also write this as scientific notation. So if we were to do scientific notation, remember, we're going to move our zero to where, or not zero, we're going to move our decimal to where it's between two numbers. Actually, let me just write this separate. So if you want to write this as scientific notation, this decimal is going to go here. So we're going to go from here to here. That's where the decimal is going to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9.9 is my new number because I got that number because that's where I moved my decimal. So my M is 9.9 times 10. I move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The original number was less than 1, so it's going to be a negative number. So 9.9 times 10 to the negative 5 years. So either way you put your answer is fine. The way the calculator gave it, it already gave it to you at 2 sig figs, so you didn't need to worry about it. Okay. So that's how you do tier 2 problems.